Now let's examine the threat from Chinese drones, both military and civilian. Andrew Corr, publisher of the Journal of Political Risk and principal at Corr Analytics, says the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, is shipping drone assembly kits to Russia to avoid sanctions. On the consumer side, Chinese drone manufacturer DJI produces about 70% of drones for civilian use worldwide. That's concerning because civilian drones have a range of military applications. I spoke with Corr to learn more about the danger at hand. Andrus Corr, it's good to have you on the show. Why should the free world be concerned about Chinese military drones?
They're one of the most prevalent drones universally used on battlefields from Ukraine, Libya, in the South China Sea, over Japan. They're being used both in terms of reconnaissance, but they're also armed or capable of being armed. Even China's civilian drones, which DJI is the biggest drone maker in the world for civilian commercial drones, about 75% of the world market is DJI in terms of commercial drones. And a lot of them are being used by forces they add military mortars, other kinds of bombs or munitions, ordnance to these drones and drop them. So there's the mass scale of manufacturing in China of both civilian and military drones has to be a massive concern. China is also developing drones for use in Russia, according to the United States. That's a big concern because they're modeling them after Iranian Shahed drones, which are already being used against Ukraine by Russia. Their munitions, they're blowing up civilian targets. A children's hospital was recently blown up by the Russians in Kiev. It's just atrocious what's going on, and China is really adding fuel to this fire, unfortunately.
Yeah, as I understand it, these Chinese military drones are making their way around the world. Can you say a bit more about that? You touched on Russia a bit.
Yeah, I think Russia is one of the primary concerns, and some of the drones from China that go to places like Libya are then transshipped to Russian forces like the Wagner forces in Africa. They're used extensively in Ukraine, obviously. And it's not only the drones themselves once they're finished. China is sending kits to get her to evade sanctions on Russia, where Russia can just screw these things together and it's a drone. But because it's mailed as a kit where the parts are disassembled, they're not technically in violation of sanctions. China is also sending extensive quantities of computer chips, other parts that are used in Russian drones against Ukraine. So there's a lot going on, and I think this is one of the big reasons why NATO recently called out China as a real adversary and a threat.
Yeah, and we'll come back to NATO in a bit. But first, you mentioned DJI. According to the Voice of America, this Chinese drone manufacturer produces 70% of the world's consumer drones. You mentioned how they can be used in military combat. What does that say about the global supply chain surrounding drones and how the U.S. and allies should respond to that?
Well, I think the big worry here is just the ability of China to mass produce these drones. Recently, China had sort of a fireworks display, and not only are these drones capable of being used individually in kind of a first-person approach with a screen and a driver, essentially, but the drones can be automated so that they're flying in configurations. They had this fireworks display where they had what looked like hundreds of drones that were flying in sort of synchronicity and in a dragon shape, and the dragon would move and change. So obviously they're very, very sophisticated in how these drones can be used. And if you can imagine such a swarm of drones going after a U.S. aircraft carrier or something, these drones are being used in the South China Sea over U.S. Training exercises with the Philippines. They're being used to fly over the Miyako Strait of Japan, which is really a violation of Japan's territory and airspace. They're being used to surveil Taiwan already. And a lot of these drones, one of their drones is jet powered, so it can go very fast, thousands of miles, and it can be armed, and it's useful in surveillance. So, and the fact that they can mass produce these things at scale, if we go into a kind of a war situation or something like that, we're in big trouble in terms of because of the ubiquity and importance of drones in warfare, as proven by the Ukrainians.
Corr, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.